Green Cooling scores with the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Show.
Yes, it's a big hello. My name's Steve Beech, and of course this is the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Show, and it's episode 15, would you believe? And of course it's our Easter special, so we'll have something extra a little bit later on. But speaking of something extra, alongside me, of course, is Dave Parkinson.
Extra large, I think, Steve. I think that's the... great to be here as always, Steve. And, well, we're going to be having a good look at what's happening over the course of this week. So we've got audio highlights, we've got interviews, we've got our full National Conference League roundup. We've even got our social media story of the week, and I hope everybody's going to love this one. And of course, Easter reflections. So a couple of weeks ago, we did actually have a quick look at the league tables. I want to take that just a little bit further this time because other than Leigh Miners, most sides seem to be filling in who's doing the top scorers.
No, Siddal or another one that are slipping back. I was checking today as well. Yeah,
are they? Nothing's gone on there, is
well, as we'll find out in our highlights about try scorers, etc. There's a gentleman who's not got any tries up at the moment, and we know he scores a few this weekend.
So we're talking about Mr. Lewis?
It certainly is, yes.
Okay, so it needs somebody. So just a quick note to anybody at Siddal, if you're listening in, just give him a nudge and ask him, can they update the scorers list?
Can you just put your scorers in?
We do like these things to be accurate, though. Yeah. I mean, I know we're jesting about it, but, it's good for us to give players the proper mention, isn't it? If they're having good seasons and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what we want to do.
We want to celebrate them, don't we? At the end of the day, if they've put the efforts in and come away, with the really, really good efforts, then it's not all just about scoring tries and goals, etc. Obviously, we're looking at those players that have played lots of games. Because again, we say it here on loads of times about, how many times professional clubs harping on about, do you know how many games the effort play, etc. We're talking about some of these guys play a lot of games and do a job
exactly.
as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, without further ado, Steve.
Yeah. Well, where were we at the weekend?
Well, we were over at Leigh Miners Rangers, weren't we? We were at Twist Lane, and it was Leigh Miners Rangers up against Siddal. Hosty starts the counter-attack for Siddal. Oh, what a hit! Perfect tackle there, George Maloney. What a hit. And Siddal, they'll carry on with their possession. It's Oliver Lewis out on that left-hand side, wrapped up by 3. He'll play this ball to Jamie Greenwood. Greenwood turns it to his right-hand side, links with the stand-up Harry Milnes, and he picks up one of the big artillery prop forwards to truck the ball in. 25 metres out from the line, it's Harry Georgiou to play it. Greenwood dummies, comes to this right-hand side. Here's Ackroyd through, speeding past, and he'll go underneath the post. First try of the game. It comes just a minute and a half in, and I've got to say, that was brilliant attacking play from Christian Ackroyd. So, Siddal take possession at the base of the scrum. It comes down this right-hand side. Big strong carry from Rushworth. He's broken through over the halfway line, over the 30, over the 20. He has pinned back his ears. He's in at the corner. That was dynamic pace from the youngster, wasn't it? Straight through he went. Brilliant try. Last tackle signalled here. It comes to Ackroyd. Ackroyd just standing off him. He plays it off to Harry Milnes, and then Greenwood. Ambitious pass out to Williams on the left-hand side. Can he keep it moving? He does to Lewis. Lewis dummies. Then he surges on. Then he carries it all the way into the corner and finishes it off with a great aplomb. Kieran Reid is piling through,
offside,
but a penalty which will go in Leigh Miners' favour. First proper chance, this.
First proper pressure that they've had.
Hamer, long ball out to Youds, further long ball off to that right-hand side, Isaac Hewitt. He finds Lancelot, who comes back in field, skips a couple of tackles, goes underneath the post. That's the sort of slippery play we've come to expect, to be honest, from Noah Lancelot. He's just got this uncanny ability to weave his way through, doesn't often need a lot of space. It's going to be taken at the base by Greenwood, who shuffles it off left to Harry Milnes. He quickly gets rid of it. It's all the way across to Lewis with a running chance. He's going in again, Lewis. It's the first half hat trick from him, and he speeds down that left wing. Lewis has found the groove, so too have Siddal, and it's 24-4.
Did you say it was Ollie or Carl Lewis going down that left-hand side? His pace is absolutely to burn, isn't it? And over a distance like that, you're just not going to touch him. Will they swing it out to this right-hand side?
Goes to Hamer. He dabs it through the line, runs after it, he's chasing it, he's won the race. Superb play from Hamer. Just bobbled invitingly over towards the side of the post, and he won the race to it. First try of the second half goes the way of Leigh Miners. Couple of hard-fought meters gained there. Hamer's back in at 9. Flicks it to Darby on the left. He keeps moving to Youds. Youds across to Lancelot. Good defence. Oh, he's fallen away from the tackle though. Lancelot is off again. He's through the middle. He releases the offload.
Lovely ball.
There's the run. All the way to the line. He's got it down as well. Isaac Hewitt touching down at the side of the post. Well, they just left a trail of men in his wake. Body Lancelot, didn't he?
Oh.
Here's Williams, big Harvey Williams pushes away from 2, takes the inside track and he'll go in. Well, he's deserved that, to be honest, as Harvey Williams. At times he's been unplayable this afternoon, and that was one of those occasions because he brushed away from a couple of defenders, put the brakes on, took the inside track and went over. Strong finish from Siddal. Here's Horner. Horner, can he get over? Yes, it's a superb run from Horner, backing up Greenwood, spun his way through a challenge, dots it down to make it 40 points to 16 with 3 minutes or so remaining. The referee's whistle does sound. 42 points to 16. Siddal march on.
Green Cooling keeps the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League show cool, even when tackles get heated.
Yeah, Siddal certainly did march on there, and it was certainly a game of 2 halves, wasn't it, Parker?
Oh, it certainly was, yeah. I mean, at half-time, 30 points to 4 in favour of Siddal. They were unplayable at times in that first half. Harry Georgiou at loose forward was phenomenal in his first 25 minutes and his first stint on the field. Not only with the hard work that he was doing as a middleman, alongside the likes of Canaan Smithies and Morgan Scott, I think, who went really well off the bench. But for me as well, it was also a case of they were very confident in the way that they handled the ball, weren't they? So Milnes and the halfback Ackroyd, they really did link play well. And they did most of this without Lewis Hosty, who was the top point scorer in the National Conference League last year. I was going to say hardly touching the ball, but he hardly touched it in a way to threaten the scorers, did he? He was involved and he, cleared his lines. But that back line was something else. I think I mentioned Williams, the centre. He was fantastic at times. Yeah. I got a couple of really, really good pictures of him, actually, of breaking the line and sort of going through with Leigh Miners Rangers players just trying to chase him the best they could. But you're right. I mean, in that second half, Miners really did come to. They had about 8 sets of possession, one after the other, didn't they, over a period of time, because it was like penalty, drop out, penalty, drop out, penalty, try. Yeah. And that was how they started that second half, really. So by the time they got to like 48 minutes and they made it 30 points to 10, but really it needed another quick fire score after that, and from a Miners point of view they didn't manage it until the hour mark, but it was a much improved effort.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I like the way that Siddal finished the game as well, and I know that they were frustrated in one respect that they weren't able to replicate the second half of the first half for the second half, but I thought they came up against a really good effort there in Leigh Miners Rangers, who, when we spoke to their coach Dave Rowland before the game, was saying about how they're missing virtually an entire back line, from the one that was in pre-season training. They had a lad who's on dual registration from Swinton. They had another couple of lads who swapped about, season-ending injuries to a couple of others. And currently they've got like a teenager playing 6 who looks like he's going to become a good player in future.
Yeah. And I mean, he was he's lucky in the sense he's got Johnny Youds there at the side of him, because he controlled loads of things.
Yeah, he's at the other end of the spectrum, and how pleased Miners Rangers must be this season that they've got Johnny Youds back on board. He's a decent kicker of the ball as well. You know, we saw evidence of that with these long kicks down the ground. It was a much improved effort, you know, in that second half from Leigh Miners Rangers. But I was pretty impressed with Siddal overall, I have to admit. You know, I really like the look of Canaan Smithies.
Yeah.
You know, he just carries on and on and on. He's like a Duracell bunny, isn't he? You know, he just can't, you know, really does. I liked the look of the back row as well. It was a tough back row. I know certainly Williams, the back rower, lost his cool at one point, and it looked like he was going to go and hammer somebody. But fortunately he didn't, and he managed to, you know, quell the red mist that sort of went in front of him.
Certainly in that first half, Jamie Greenwood, the half-back, the hooker.
Oh, hooker, yeah.
But again, he was dictating everything, and his distribution from dummy half was excellent.
And also as well, so another thing is that he's such a good kicker of the ball, and I just think, and we've said this before in our commentaries, and I've probably said it on this show as well in the past, that if you've got a 9 that can kick the ball, it basically means as soon as the ball comes in, he's kicking it downfield, everybo's on side but the man who's played it.
That's right,
You know, because everybody's coming from behind that position, aren't they? So I think it's such a key part to your armoury if you have got a 9 that can kick. And as we've seen him before, you know, he can swap his role about. You mentioned his distribution. He's quite quick out of dummy half as well, isn't he? You know, really does ask those questions. And what Siddal did really well is they targeted that little space in behind the second marker at the play of the ball. So they kept coming back into that area and back into that area and back into that area, and it just tired out those middles and made them really hard to deal with.
Yeah. Speaking of kicking the ball and going back to Johnny Howard's, he managed to perform a 20-40, which I believe you hadn't seen before.
No, I was quite excited at that, to be honest. There's not a lot that there's a lot in rugby league that excites me, for starters, as you know, having been alongside me for as long as we've been doing this show, and the commentaries over the last couple of years. But yeah, I really liked that because I hadn't actually seen a 20-40 live, which, you know, it was good. It
was a good game all round. The energy that Miners came out with in the second half, I'm thinking, if they'd have had that energy from the start of the game, they wouldn't. I'm not saying they would have won, but they wouldn't have been as far away as what they were.
Can I say something here that you might need a beat machine for?
Go on then.
I was going to say, what it needed was Dave Rowland's kick their ass before they went out.
Yeah,
because it sounded like, you know, as you'll hear from him in a couple of minutes, it sounded like he did that at half time, basically, and sort of was quite forthright in putting his opinion across of that it wasn't good enough from a Leigh Miners point of view. And it's just a shame, as you said, that they didn't start the game with the same sort of intensity, because we could have had an absolute classic on our hands, couldn't we?
Yeah. Speaking of Canaan Smithies, though, you caught up with him after the game, and this is what he had to say.
Okay, so I'm delighted to be joined after the match by
Canaan Smithies.
Canaan, as captain of Siddal, it's a great delight to have you alongside me. Your thoughts on the game? I mean, for me, it looked like a really clinical first half, and then second half, you got kind of drawn in a bit.
Yeah, we just fell off it. First half, we put them in the corner, turned it around completely, and doing all the little things well, and then we dropped off, went in at half time, and just let them back into game penalties, and three of our boys fell off. I think we were down to 1 on the bench in the second half, so we had to dig deep. And yeah, fair play to Miners, they came at us, and we had a period where we did his line for quite a while, which was good to see. But
there was about 8 sets before they scored.
Yeah, about 8 sets on his line, but we just can't give teams like that field position and ball. But yeah, just felt like to say fair play to them.
I mean, there was a little bit of disruption before the game as well, because, you know, Sam Walsh was named and then didn't take the field. Did he have a problem in the warm-up?
Yeah, Achilles. Achilles. So he was 50-50 to play anyway, so put him on the bench. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, like I say, we've won 4 out of the 5 block, which is positive, but it's just the standards we pride ourselves off, it just wasn't quite there today.
How do you normally approach a season? You know, so you've mentioned before, do you do it in like
do it in blocks?
5?
Do it in blocks. So we've got a week off now. We'll rest up and we'll go again the week after, and we just try to take every game as they come. Really, it's just about building momentum for your, you know, no disrespect to Miners, but your bigger games, your Westalls, and we're looking at last year. We fell short. We want to better ourselves, and you know we won the league, but we didn't win the grand final. So it's just all about building week on week, and getting to the end goal where we want to be.
Looking at that game though, we praised on commentary, certainly you middle guys, for Siddal, because you set the platform, don't you? I mean, the first spell that Harry put in, Harry Georgiou, he was fantastic.
We all played big minutes. I think we did that. I don't think myself about 70 minutes, which is big, but you just got to do it tough sometimes. A few injuries, it's just a bit of adversity. You've got to deal with it, and that makes you a better side. Like, we've come through it, but it's just a bit frustrating how we started the first half. We put them in the corner and they couldn't really get out, and we just had a bit of a reality check in there really after. And Ingy had a few words with Jake, and just a bit of an honesty test really. It's no crisis time. We won 42.
Well, exactly. We can never talk about a crisis.
No, it's not a
16,
crisis.
can we, really?
It's just like say we set high standards at Siddal. It's a big club, and that's we've got to follow that.
And you've not quite met those standards overall today, and that's the frustration.
That's the frustrating thing. Us as players and as a club, we set high standards, and like we mentioned earlier, we've got a good second team, and the club's in a good place at the minute, and we want to keep driving forward. The juniors are coming through, and we've produced good players, don't we, at Siddal, and we want people to come back. So if the first and seconds are playing good rugby, then.
And one thing, because I had a chat with the Leigh Miners coach, and he said after 20 minutes he would have been happy with 60 points to 4 where you set
That's
up.
the frustrating thing. I think
that was a game potentially for that, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the games like that though, it's just concentration with the boys. They want to play rugby, and you probably try force it that bit more. Where last year we were completing really high 60 minutes, and then we're blowing away the last 20, and that's just where we've fallen away in that game there. But we'll dust ourselves down and we'll go again.
I know it's always a funny one, when obviously I can tell your frustrations, but you're sort of a bit of a stalwart around Siddal these days, aren't you? With how long you've been there and gone through, and you've seen an awful lot, even in your years that you've been playing. And I know that compared with me, you're just a young fella, really. To be fair. How much does it mean to you, to sort of represent this club and the way that you do, and being captain as well?
It's good, yeah. Like you say, I feel old at 29 because the squad's so young. So there's a lot of potential there for a fair few years. The boys are like 25, 24, 21. You've got young kids coming through, and I've just got to try drive the standards, and turn up week in, week out, and lead by example really, and just follow through with what I do on the field, and hopefully the boys follow what I do. And
I think that's as well what yourself and then Adam had the same lead, didn't he, on the bench too?
Yeah. When we're good, we're good. It's just like I say, we set high standards. It's no crisis time. It's just about regrouping and getting back to doing the little things well. Who
is it that you've got next time in a couple of weeks? Do you look that far ahead?
I can't tell you.
So you'll probably do that in training, won't you? Then set the next block ahead.
We just want to get week by week, get this one out of the way, have a week off, regroup, and go again.
13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Show, discussing the greatest game at all grassroots levels.
You know what? That was a really interesting interview, and it perhaps opened the curtain a little bit on just the standards that they have at Siddal.
I was just going to say exactly the same, Parker.
I have to admit, watching that game, I mean, don't get me wrong, we come at it from a spectator point of view and wanting to enjoy rugby league, and that was an enjoyable game for us, wasn't it? Because I didn't think Siddal were that far off being that top side, to be honest.
I agree, and I think I said in commentary, we were talking, and I said I felt that certainly that first half they were clinical and professional about everything they did.
And how professional did Canaan sound then? To be honest, you could almost mix him up with his brother Morgan, couldn't you?
Yeah.
The fact that how he was talking about driving standards and things like that. For me, that is why a club like Siddal is always at the top or towards the top of this National Conference League.
And what will hurt them is that obviously all the glory over the last couple of seasons, and certainly last season, ended up with Hunslet, But a lot of people forget that they actually won the league, and like you mentioned, and it's not an easy thing to knock Hunslet off the perch in the sense of just winning the league. I mean, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of we've always said about certainly the top six are always really, really, sort of stalwart sides, and each can beat each other on any given day. I mean, that's that's how it is.
I mean, they were magnificent for 90% of the season last year. With Siddal.
Yeah.
Justifiably won the way through to the final, didn't they?
Well, yeah, and arguably you could say 95 because the first half of that final,
they
were devastating, weren't they?
Yeah, they dominated. And I got the feeling as well, watching them in the first half, that they're up for doing it again, aren't they? They're up for going all the way. I know that's a big call with a lot of rugby league ahead of us, but they impressed me, Siddal, and it's even more impressive to hear people be frustrated about that.
Yeah.
Because I just think, well, how good can they actually get?
Yeah, and like we both said about that first half, the big boys did, sort of stand up and were leading the way. And again, there, as Canaan said, they did a hell of a lot of minutes. And remember you saying, I forget it was whether it was Harry Mills or Josh Mills or one of the others who you said, I don't think he's been off yet.
No.
And they were still in there. I know they dipped in that second half, but the catch-22, I think they dipped slightly. But certainly Leigh Miners up the game, like we say.
I would agree. And I think as well, the fact that I mentioned as well, they named Sam Walsh to start the game, and then he didn't come out to start. So it meant they had to do a bit of a shuffle, which they probably weren't quite fully anticipating. I know he's played it down there and said, well, he was always 50-50 to play. But if you name a side, you expect that side to take the field, don't you?
Yeah.
When the first whistle goes. So that's a bit of a disruption. Then they had Dan May who went on, and he ended up going off after about 5 minutes of being on. He did that long run, didn't he, and got a good tackle. And he'd done his shoulder, so he ended up going off.
Yeah.
And I think it were right. So at the end of the day, it ended up with Mason Scott and Adam Horn, who I thought was also very, very good.
Yeah, it was solid, wasn't he?
Between each other, weren't they? And relieving, as you mentioned, those big boys in the middle.
Yeah, did a lot of times. But speaking of Leigh Miners, as you said, that second half they came out and started put a performance in. But you caught up after the game with Dave Rowland, the coach, and this is what he had to say.
Okay, I've been joined straight after the game by Dave Rowland. Dave, your thoughts on the game? It really was, and at risk of saying it, a game of two halves, that.
Yeah. 20 minutes into the game, if someone had have asked me what the game was going to be at 80 minutes, I'd have probably said 60 odd points to 4 or something like that for Siddal. We just didn't start again. Typical us as a side, just turning ball over, not competing, not doing them 1%ers, attitude not at it at all. And like you said, game of two halves. I shouldn't have to speak to my players. I've had to speak to my players at half time for get that reaction. They need to start having a little bit of self-pride in their own performance 1 to 80. I shouldn't have to talk to them a certain way for get that second half out of them.
In saying that, you got everything that you could. You got every ounce of it second
like
half,
I said,
didn't you?
Looking at that score, I'm proud second half of my players, but I know what they can do. This is the thing, if they compete from minute 1 to 80, even though we're not as good as the good sides in this league at the minute in time, we're young and we've got players missing, we can still compete like we just have done there, and we can score points. You know what I mean? Every game we've played this season, we score a lot of points, but we let a lot of soft points in, which is not helping us.
And like you said, that first 20 minutes, I mean, while Siddal were very good,
yeah, we were very bad.
I was going to say there was a couple of soft tries in there, wasn't there? Really soft ones.
It was very, very junior rugby, should we say? Shirt grabby. If he's going to go over you, let him run over you, and then hold your hands up. He's gone over the top of me. Some of them, you need to put your body on line at this level, and it's that simple.
But like you say, it's a team in transition, this, isn't it? And it's probably not the sort of transition that you would have been expecting. I mean, we've had a couple of conversations over the last 6 months, haven't we, really, about sort of where you anticipated this club going and what you was expecting, and it's not happened. You've got players that are injured, you've got long-term missing, and let's be honest, if we were probably doing this and I'm interviewing you and it's Lee Leopards, we're probably saying, he's going on about injuries here, but I think they cut a bit more at amateur level, to be honest, don't they?
Massively, and it's not a fact of injuries, it's who you get injured and who's left. So obviously our club captain and our longest serving player Chris Bowers left us at the end of the season, both who know how to play it in this Prem, so they're irreplaceable, because you don't get 30 odd year old lads in game anymore. if you look at these teams, not many teams have got lads playing over 30 now. They're all young lads. It's a young lads game. So when you have got them old lads in your team, they make the massive difference in them tight games when they just know how for a little bit of old school, and we've just not got it. And then you miss 3 of your starting back line against a really good Siddal side, who I think are best side in league, and it's tough. And lads are coming in and playing for us who they're not quite up to this level. They're great players, but they're learning on the job, and it's the hardest league in the country, amateur level, for to learn on job at.
You mentioned there about your respect for Siddal, as well, and knowing that they're at the other end where they've been building this side for a number of years, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. And you can see, and I looked at their bench and felt, I wish that was on field for us today. But when the bench players came on, we kind of angled it, which was, I thought, honestly, 20 minutes in when they started making changes, I thought they're putting fresh bodies here and we're going to get rolled a little bit. So I have to give our players a little bit of credit there, because they did better than they did in first 20 in that last 20. But like I said, we are in transition, and we're playing some of the best teams in country. And if someone had told me that scoreline before we played today, I'd have thought we've had a dig there. And we did that second half. We had a right dig that second half, and I think 1 or 2 things go our way in that second half, and it could be a little bit closer as well, if I'm honest.
Tell me a little bit about possibly, I know as a coach you hate to pick out individual players, both for criticism and probably praise as well, because but was there anybody who you thought actually grabbed that game by the scruff of the neck in the second half?
For us, I thought Ike played well that second half for us. I thought he played really well. Obviously,
so that's young Isaac Hewitt, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's 6. So this is his 3rd game at this level. He's used to play North West Men's League in Division 2. It's like chalk and cheese, it's like, and he's playing against one of the best teams in the country. And I thought he's learning how to be an half-back at this level. And I thought that second half there, he stepped up.
Beautiful try score as well.
Brilliant try. He's always pushing. He's a great kid. He wants to learn, he wants to play first team rugby, which is nice. And I mean, some of these kids in second team, and I get it, they just want to enjoy rugby, they don't want that pressure of first team rugby. You can't force them to play. He wants to play first team rugby, which is encouraging. And I think in 18 months' time he's going to be a great player, but it's an hard league for to learn on job.
Anybody else in it? I thought Jack your forwards actually.
Yeah, I thought Jack Amer today for us. 80 minutes in middle of the field against that pack.
And varying his position as well, because he played at hooker and also loose.
He never stops, does he?
Yeah.
He's by far top tackler on that field every single week that we play. No matter who we play against, he's top tackler on that field. He's a competitor. He has got a little bit of a negative sometimes where we can have a go at somebody, but that's because he wants to win.
Yeah,
like it's not because he just wants to win.
But you want players like that.
Of course you do.
You
want
players, and
if we've got 13 Jack Amers on that field today, we win. It's that simple. If he's on that field 1-13, we don't lose that game.
We picked out in our commentary Harry Georgiou, the 13,
yeah,
was perhaps the man, because he got to the point where you're thinking, we've handled this running game, and the next thing he's popping a pass, and he's linking everything else up, isn't he?
Yeah. They're just, you could see that they're organised. They've got probably 22 players got picked from today. I'm drafting players in from Swinton and second team, and that's taking nothing away from Siddal, nothing at all. Like I've said, I think they're the best team in this comp, but I think we've done all right there today considering what we've had to choose from.
Dave, thank you so much. I appreciate your candidness and your honesty as always, right? And I'll catch up with you again soon.
Thank you.
Every tackle, every try, every scrum. Green Cooling is proud to be part of the Community Rugby League family.
Got to say, Parker, I don't know what it is with these interviews, but they're so candid, and you get the raw bones of emotion from a coach, and you don't get anything like that from the professional game. They're so coached and everything.
But this is why I love doing it, because you get honest reactions, but you get thoughtful answers as well. So because it would have been easy for him to just sort of like say, no, Dave, leave us alone. We've suffered a little bit of a beating, and they've ram-raided us in the first half, type of thing. But fair play to everybody that I've spoken to. they've all wanted to give their opinion. They've all wanted to speak about the game. And let's be honest, for every winner, you've always got a loser as well, haven't you? You know, and I really like Dave Rowland, and I like what he stands for. You know, he's a fantastic bloke for Leigh Miners Rangers. Has been for a number of years, both as a player, later as a coach. You know, he's the similar to some of the other guys that we've talked about. So he's like first one to any training session, he's last one to leave. He turns the lights on, he turns the lights off. He's just that sort of guy, you know. And for me, clubs revolve around guys like Dave Rowland. So when he's got something to say, for me, I want to listen to that, and I always find that really, really interesting. Yeah,
he's got that same vibe as is it Dave Mysko at St Jude's. That when you've interviewed him. And exactly the same, you know, honest up front. There's no sort of shying away from things, and I've got to say, going back to the Leigh Miners side, a couple of the lads that really impressed me was Leon Molyneux at centre.
You mentioned him, didn't you? You know, he came up with a couple of really good hits, didn't he?
Yeah, it was. You could see he was really busy and enthused. Even in the first half, he was one of the standouts in that respect, and carried it on into the second.
And interesting from Leon, and when I spoke to Dave Rowland about him, he's one of those second team players. So for the second team, he actually plays loose forward. Yeah. So again, he's out of position, and as Dave mentioned, he's learning in the hardest amateur league that there is in the country, in a position that's not really his, and doing a good job.
Yeah, and when you said Jack Hamer was shuffling about, and Joe Davis came in at half back and covered his distribution from dummy half was absolutely superb. Some of his passing was absolutely bullets and straight as a die.
I do like Jack as well, though. You know, he's again one of those very honest, forthright type of players that I think every club needs, and you know, he's certainly key to this fight that Leigh Miners Rangers find themselves in this season.
Well, what they've got there, they've got somebody who can move about, which, like he's just said, from a Jack Hamer point of view, and if you have to move him about, you know, you've got somebody. An up-and-coming talent who's good enough to slot in there, you know, to cover that position. So, in that respect, it's you know, they've got it covered, and they know it's going to be difficult, don't they? At the end of the day, I mean, I know they've been in there before, but they've come back up, and it's difficult. But
it is, and you know, I think that this is why I mentioned the injuries. You know, so I know that. When you talk to a professional coach about injuries, it's usually the first thing on social media that's jumped on. He's using injuries as an excuse. Yeah. But they cut harder, they cut deeper at community level. And also as well, there was that really interesting point that he made about the longest serving player retiring at the end of last season. You just can't replace that sort of experience that someone gives you.
Yeah, because from a professional point of view, if that was happening on the professional front, you've known X amount of months in advance, so you're lining up the next person, whether you're bringing somebody in, or you're getting somebody ready from the lower echelon to step in there.
You can't do that at community level, not at all. You're then looking at who's turning up for your pre-season, and then thinking, you know what, we'll give him a shot, and then other things happen that kind of force your hand a little bit over the course of the season. I'm sure, you know, if Dave would have his time again, he'd probably, you know, not be wanting to at this moment play Leon as much as he is doing out in the centres when he's more a second row or a loose forward sort of character. But hey, these experiences at times, they make teams. They make teams over a longer period, don't they? And I always think as well, and it's hard, you know, if you support Leigh Miners Rangers at the moment, you're thinking, blinking out, we were really good last season, we got up, we finished, you know, second to an awesome Waterhead side, and we deservedly finished second. But you wouldn't have been anticipating looking at a completely different team 4 or 5 games into the season.
Yeah, got to say on that about you're on about if you support Leigh Miners, got to say the support that was there. I mean, it was really good, wasn't it?
It was brilliant.
We were up in the lookout. We had a cracking view. Probably could eyeball every single thing because we were up with the gods. But when I looked out, certainly on the side we were, there was plenty there. And opposite, was at full right along again.
Yeah, it's the sort of crowds that, to
Yeah.
be honest, you'd be talking about them at League One level, wouldn't you?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
You know, to be honest. So there was a good few hundred people there, which
Yeah.
is always great to see. And that's every time that I've been down to Leigh Miners. It's very rare that you'll go there and there'll be, you know, one man and his dog on the touchline.
Yeah,
'cause it's just
yeah.
not that sort of club.
No, not at all. Right, Parky, so moving up, we're going to do our roundup of the National Conference League, and
Yeah, well, let's start with the Premier Division, shall we? And what about this one for our first result? We mentioned about, you know, it's a good time to be in the West. It certainly was at the weekend. West Bowling came up against West Hull, and West Bowling held on in a thrilling finish to inflict a first defeat on the season on leaders West Hull. The Bradford side flew out of the blocks and they took a 12-0 lead inside the first 12 minutes. Tries came from Charlie Barrett and Danny Halmshaw, and both were converted by Harry Williams. West Hull did respond with tries from Jack Watts and Jacob Moore, and Leon Stewart then added a crucial score in injury time at the end of the first half. Jack Townend converted 2 of them, and the visitors led 16-12 at half-time. Bowling then surged 12 points ahead by the hour, with Hayden Spence, Andrew Gabriel and Williams himself crossing, Williams adding 2 more goals to his tally. And late tries from Kieran Masik and Kian Goodhand brought West Hull close, but the comeback fell just short. So scorers in this one for West Bowling: tries from Barrett, Halmshaw, Williams, Spence, Gabriel, 4 goals from the boot of Williams, and for West Hull, Watts, Moore, Stewart, Masik and Goodhand were the try scorers, Townend adding 3 goals.
yeah, and 2 teams who we've managed to cover this season were up against each other over in Oldham when Waterhead Warriors took on Loch Lane. And Loch Lane leapfrogged Waterhead in the standings with a strong away performance. Keegan Brennan's early penalty gave Waterhead the lead, but then the Castleford side hit back with first half tries from Harvey Keir and Nathan Fozzard before Morgan Jones added a try and 2 goals to lead 16-2. Despite Harrison Dodd's try giving Waterhead a sniff, Callum Cameron's second sin bin and Morgan Punchard's try, converted by Jones, sealed it. Dodd grabbed a second late on, goaled by Jensen Hamilton, but Loch Lane had done enough. And scorers for Waterhead: tries 2 for Dodd, goals from Brennan and Hamilton, and Loch Lane tries for Keir, Fozzard, Jones, Punchard, and 3 goals from Jones.
Over at Hunslet, Wathbrow picked up a vital win in South Leeds to deepen Hunslet's relegation concerns. The host struck first through Luke Thompson, goaled by Josh McClelland. The Cumbrians then responded with a burst of 3 tries in 6 minutes from Sam Kerwin, Aidan Dawson and Matty Creasy, 2 of which were converted by Greg Rooney, and they led 16-6 at the break. Devon Sharp and Cole Walker-Taylor added second half tries, with Kerwin converting 1 before Hunslet's Tommy Cork touched down late on, with McClelland adding the extras. It was never going to be enough though, and Wathbrow Hornets won the day by 26 points to 12. Scorers for Hunslet: tries from Thompson and Cork, 2 goals from McClelland. Meanwhile for Wathbrow, tries for Kerwin, Dawson, Creasy, Sharp and Walker-Taylor, 2 goals for Greg Rooney, 1 for Sam Kerwin.
Meanwhile, York Acorn welcomed Rochdale Mayfield in the battle of the middle of the tables, and 2 teams who've been producing some good results, but Mayfield took charge after an early scare at York Acorn. The hosts recovered from 10-0 down to lead briefly 12-10, 2 tries by Jordan Potter and Ben Husband, both goal by Ant Chilton. Mayfield then opened up the taps, scoring through Jack Wright, Deacon Connolly with 2, Jack McConaughey, Devlin Long, Tyrone Chipchase and Rhys Hamlet. Late tries by Lewis Lord and Callum Worthington, both converted by Chilton, added gloss for York. Scorers for York, as we said, Potter, Husband, Lord and Worthington, with 3 goals from Chilton. For Rochdale Mayfield, 2 tries for Wright, 2 tries for Connolly. McConaughey, Long, Chipchase and Hamlet also added a try each. Connolly kicked 3 goals and Higgs kicked 2 goals.
Got to say, I think we've already got the name of the season there. Tyrone Chipchase, playing for Rochdale Mayfield. Fantastic name. That's a proper rugby league name, isn't it? I wonder whether he does Chip and Chase.
Yes, yeah. I wonder how many times he's heard that.
I know, and probably there'll be more by the end of the season, won't there? If I'm on the case now, it's a Bazza of
That's
a
a Bazza.
There we go.
Dear me.
Right, Thatto Heath. They continued their rise, leaving Dewsbury Moor still winless. Jamie Holroyd and Sean Lester struck early, with Lester converting both. Aaron James replied for the Maroons, improved by Greg Culbridge, but Thatto pulled away through second half tries from Holroyd and that man Lester, and there was also an effort from Mason Phillips. Leicester also finished with 4 goals before Kieran Hepworth's late try for Dewsbury, converted by Culbridge, was no more than consolation. It finished there. Thatto Heath Crusaders 28, Dewsbury Moor Maroons 12. Scores for Thatto, 2 tries from Holroyd, 2 tries from Leicester, who has been in really good form this season so far, hasn't he? Other scores go in the way of Phillips, Leicester adding 4 goals, and for Dewsbury Moor, tries from James and Hepworth. Not James Hepworth as it originally looked on there, and 2 goals from the boot of Culbridge.
So that's wrapping up the Premier League results. Moving on.
Premier League?
I like that. Premier Division.
Premier League?
Premier Division.
I like that. You promoted them. Man, you get better entertainment than you do in the Premier League watching National Conference League Premier Division. Yeah. Just my opinion, of course.
Boring. So we're moving on to the National Conference League Division 1. Ince Bridge continued their impressive start with a solid win away at promotion rivals Shawcross. The Sharks struck first through Brad Oakenshaw, but Ince edged ahead by the break thanks to Callum Hughes' try converted by Mason Fillingham. Jack Toulson briefly put the horse back in front after the restart, but Ince responded strongly with further scores from Hughes, Byron Aspinall, Fillingham adding the extras to secure the points. So scorers for Shawcross Sharks were Oakenshaw and Toulson. Ince Rosebridge tries came for 2 from Hughes, 1 from Aspinall and 2 goals from Fillingham.
Close run thing that really, wasn't it, for Ince Rosebridge? This one was close run as well. Wigan St Jude's 21, Kells 8. St Jude's bounced back from an early setback to claim a convincing home win over Kells. Clark Chambers had opened the scoring for the visitors, but Jude's hit back with tries from Harry Parkinson, Dante Morley-Samuels, Connor Parkinson and Joey Brady. Danny Cassidy added the conversions and slotted over a late drop goal to seal it. Meanwhile, Harvey Nelson crossed for Kells in the closing stages, but it wasn't quite enough. So the scores for there were St Jude's Harry Parkinson with a try, Morley Samuels, Connor Parkinson and Brady with the other tries. Cassidy adding couple of goals there, and a drop goal as well. Meanwhile, Kells, they scored tries through Chambers and Nelson.
Yeah, and to complete the happy Saturday for the Wigan clubs, Wigan St Patrick's were up against Egremont Rangers, and a dominant display from St Pat's saw them power past Egremont, despite the visitors drawing first blood through Kai Beckett. Brad Smith led the way with 2 tries and 6 goals, while Matty Ellis and Riley Dervin also bagged doubles. Additional tries came from Adam O'Neill, Logan Bradbury and Dave Thompson. Egremont's woes were compounded when James Newton was sin-binned before half-time. Scorers for Wigan St Pat's were 2 from Smith, 2 from Ellis, 2 from Dervin and 1 each from O'Neill, Bradbury and Thompson, and 6 goals from the boot of Smith. Egremont were on the scorecard with just 1 try from Beckett.
Heworth maintained their strong form with a commanding second half performance to down Stanningley, over at Stanningley this one as well. Adam Dent had opened the scoring before Jack Sykes hit back. A Mark Shire's try and 2 Dean Parker goals kept the hosts in touch at 12-16 at the break. But Heworth took full control in the second half with unanswered scores for Ben Barnard, Joel Ivaro, Joe Dayton and Harrison Briggs. Jack Sadler kicking 4 goals. Tensions flared late on with Stanley's Alfie Pete Simbind and the Heworth coach Scott Rhodes, who was red carded. So for Stanley, tries from Sykes and Shires, 2 goals from Parker, and for Heworth, tries for Dent, Jackson, Elliott, Barnard, Vero, Dayton and Briggs, 4 goals from the boot of Sadler.
And it was the battle of the 2 Warrington teams who were holding things up at the bottom of the division. So not only were the bragging rights, but there were big points on offer here. And it was Woolston Rovers who claimed their first win of the season in dramatic fashion against local rivals Crossfields. The hosts were in control for much of the game with two tries from Dylan Bradish and Ben Lomax and 2 goals from the boot of Brad Stanway. But late drama saw Jamie Abraham, Simbind and Rovers capitalised. Harry Files levelled in the final minute and Craig Lawton added the goal. And Jake Proudlove crossed in stoppage time with Ryan Brown converting to snatch the victory. Scorers for Crossfield tries, 2 from Brandish and 1 from Lomax, with Stanway kicking 2 goals. For Woolston Rovers, 2 from Harry Files, Haley and Proudlove adding 1 each. Goals from the boots of Lawton, 2, and also 1 from Brown.
I bet that was a power-packed effort from Jake Proudlove, because he's a big fella, isn't he?
So yeah, I mean, I bet that was one hell of a game, because Woolston have been on the wrong end of that result for quite a few games now, so that would have been absolutely. I bet the dressing room was noisy there. I can say that.
Bragging rights the way of Woolston, eh? So over at Oldham St Anne's, the bragging rights went the way of the home side, and it was a tough outing for Ulton, who remained bottom after a heavy defeat at the high-flying St Anne's side. Joe Horan grabbed a consolation for the Raiders, but Anne's ran in 10 tries, and Matt Whitehead kicked 9 goals as well. Whitehead and Leo McNally both scored twice, with further efforts from Callum Cashin, Kyle Saunders, Kendall Davis, Craig Basnett and Alex Chatterton, who also grabbed a brace. So the scorers in this one: Oldham St Anne's 2 tries for Whitehead, 2 tries for McNally, 2 tries for Chatterton, 1 each for Cashin, Saunders and Davis and Basnett. 9 goals from the boot of Whitehead, and for Ulton Raiders, just that lone try from Horan.
And that wraps up your results from National Conference League Division 1. Moving on into Division 2, and last week we spoke, could East Leeds carry on with their 70 points routes, which they've been doing for the last, I think it was 3 consecutive games. They couldn't get to the 70 point mark, but they were well on the way there, and when they were up against Enzingham. And East Leeds continued their scintillating form, running in 8 tries to cruise past Enzingham and keep their unbeaten record intact. Despite briefly being 6-4 down earlier on, East took complete control, with AJ Wilson bagging a hat-trick and Kane Riley notching a brace. Jake Normington and George Clark also crossed, while Luke Littlewood slotted over 6 goals. Scorers for Enzingham, Rogerson and a goal from Dalton, while East Leeds scorers were hat-trick for Wilson, 2 for Riley, Normington, Clark and Bennett Brining, all adding 1 each, and Littlewood kicking 6 goals.
Normanton, they staged a brilliant fight back to keep hold of second place. That was after trailing 18 points to 4 in the first half over at Hull Dockers. Dockers had surged ahead through a Tim Heel brace and a Danny Sotheby effort, but the Knights roared back with scores from Noah Halliday, Sam Butler, Adam Biskin, who's in a rare try-scoring form at the moment, isn't he? He's scoring nearly every week.
That's right, yeah.
Isn't it? Tim Robinson and Joe Crossland, with Charlie Barker adding the crucial kicks. So in total, Hull Dockers, their tries came 2 for Heel, 1 each for Sotheby and Birch. Goals went the way of Sotheby with 3 for Normanton. Tries from Lucas, Halliday, Butler, Biscombe, Robinson and Crossland. Crossland kicking 2 goals, Barker kicking 2 goals.
Dewsbury Celtic maintained a promotion charge with a commanding win at struggling Skirler, who remain winless. Charlie Heaton and Jordan Hurst controlled proceedings, with Hurst scoring twice and kicking 5 goals. Bailey Arnold also added to the tally as Celtic pulled away in the second half. Scorers for Dewsbury Celtic, 2 for Eton, 2 for Hurst, and goals 5 from the boot of Hurst as well. And unfortunately, Skirler not getting on the card at all.
There was a Cumbrian derby on the cards between Ellenborough Rangers and Barrow Island, and Barrow Island pulled off a gritty comeback win at Ellenborough despite travelling with just 14 players. Bit of a worry that, though.
Yeah, we said that with somebody else last week, didn't we?
Ellenborough had raced into a 12-0 lead, but Barrow responded with tries from Carl McBain, Seth Woodend and Ian Irvine, alongside accurate kicking from Sam Jones and Finn Dutton-Rosconi. Gary Tierney's try had given Ellenborough a brief lead, but Irvine's effort sealed it. So the scorers for Ellenborough Rangers: Ocassini, Ossel and Tierney, with Stevenson adding 3 goals. For Barrow Island, tries from McBain, Woodend and Irvine, with 3 goals from the boot of Jones, and a penalty goal from the boot of Dutton Rosconi. Simbin Ooh, that went the way of Barrow Island. They had Staffiri, who was sin-binned after 22 minutes for a late shot, and it finished Ellenborough Rangers 18, Barrow Island 20.
Dridlington took on Pilch Rex, and it was Dridlington 32, Pilch Rex 10. And Dridlington produced a strong team performance to ease past Pilch Rex at home. Oliver Winfield grabbed a second half double, with Rhys Riddiford also scoring twice. Luke Broadbent and Aaron Blake also added further tries, while Mike Sanderson was reliable with the boot. Pilks had opened and closed the scoring through Josh O'Connell and Lewis Kane, with Callum Johnson adding a goal. Scorers for Drigg, 2 for Riddiford, 2 for Winfield. Broadbent and Blake also added 1 each, and 4 goals from the boots of Sanderson. For Pilch Rex, tries from O'Connell and Kane, and Johnson adding a goal.
Meanwhile, Clockface Miners bounced back from a heavy defeat last week to earn a convincing win over at Thornhill. Thornhill had edged ahead with a Sam Ratcliffe penalty and a solo try from Kieran Costello, but Clockface responded in style with Brandon Lewis's try and a hat-trick from Ben Daniels. The win was capped off with a Jimmy Jones score. Lewis Geraghty added 3 goals. So for Thornhill Trojans, that try from Costello and the 1 goal from Ratcliffe. For Clockface Miners, 3 tries from Daniels, 1 each from Lewis and Jones, Geraghty adding 3 goals. And there was a couple of sin-bins as well. So for Clockface, Hughes was sin-binned in the 60th minute for kicking out, while for Thornhill, Costello was also sin-binned for a late high tackle. It finished Thornhill Trojans 6, Clockface Miners 26.
Did Clockface win last week? I thought they'd won. And then the week before that it was Leeds, East Leeds they played.
Yeah, it's the AI sort of got. It's got us on another occasion, but I didn't mention it, Steve.
I don't know.
We'll have people complaining. ChatGPT, we're coming for you.
Right, that's the roundup for Division 2.
You're not going to trust what you're going to read there, are you, for the rest of it?
National Conference League Division 3 roundup. Saddleworth Rangers up against Milford. Saddleworth Rangers 46, Milford 10. And league leaders Saddleworth Rangers kept their perfect start rolling with a dominant home win over struggling Milford. Finlay Stewart and Jack Bradbury each bagged a brace, while Connor Whitehead notched up 18 points personally. Milford replied through Callum Platts and Hamish McClintock, and an Hamish McClintock try, which he converted himself. So scorers for Saddleworth, 2 tries for Stewart, 2 for Bradbury, Whitehead and Winterbottom adding 1 each, along with Charles and Hart, and 7 goals from the boot of Mr. Whitehead. For Milford, Platts, McClintock, and a goal from McClintock to continue their point score.
I think we've got another great name there. So not only have we got Tyrone Chipchase for Rochdale Mayfield, we've got Hamish McClintock now for Milford. We're going to look at how he does over the rest of the season. Over at Keighley Albion, their positive start to the season has continued. It was a home win against Featherstone Lions. They continued their fine return to NCL life with a strong showing against the Lions, who had Jordan Walker sent off late in the first half. Albion crossed for 6 tries, including a brace for former professional player Ben Stead, and they were firmly in control by the final quarter. Lions managed a consolation through James Metcalf late on. So Keighley Albion in total had tries from Stead, who grabbed 2, Pickles, Gaunt, Tenniswood and Stevenson going over the line, with Hudson adding 3 goals, Cox adding 2. Meanwhile, for Featherstone Lions, tries from Carter and Metcalf, 1 goal from the boots of Howcroft. And that red card, well, it came just before half-time for Walker, an alleged swinging arm. Keighley Albion 34, Featherstone Lions 10.
Mighton Warriors welcomed Bentley, and Bentley stormed into an 18-0 half-time lead and held off a second-half fight back from Mighton Warriors to record a strong away win. Kieran Lewis finished with a try and 4 goals, while Marty Hall, Jordan Middleton and Grant Hill also powered over. Scorers for Bentley, Hall, Middleton, Hill and Lewis, and goals 4 from Lewis. Mighton Warriors tries 2 for Wall, 1 for Hoffen, and also a goal from Wall.
Over at Beverley, Lee East edged a thriller to remain firmly within the promotion picture. The visitors had stormed into a 24 points to 0 lead, only for Beverley to claw back to within 2 points with 3 second-half tries from Lewis Harold. But a second try from Matty Aspinall and Adam Holland's 5th goal sealed it late on. So your scorers for Beverley were 2 for Harold, Miller with 1, Rose with 1, goal split between Robson and Hardy, he grabbed 2, and for Leigh East, Graney, Fletcher, Aspinall with 2, and Pales going in for tries, Holland adding those 5 goals.
On a bit of a roll, Leigh East at the moment, mate. And we've got the Cumbrian derby between Dissington and Millham. And the bragging rights went to Dissington, who scored 3 tries in the last 6 minutes to put Millham away in a closer match than the scoreline suggests. Scott Rook scored twice for the Horse, while Nicky Cook, James Morton, Kelvin Lynch and Callum Fox all crossed. Millham replied through Josh Blinkhorn and Kai Williams. Scorers for Dissington were 2 for Rook, 1 for Cook. Morton, Lynch and Fox all got 1 each. Goals came from the boot of George with 3. Millham's tries came from Blinkhorn, Williams and 2 goals from Evans. And that was Dissington 34, Millham 12. And that rounds up our results for the NCL, Parker.
Some good games again this past weekend. Some really outstanding ones. Like you mentioned, that Leigh East close win against Beverley. The win that Bentley had on the road at Mighty Murray's as well was an impressive one. Keighley Albion putting a good performance together again. And then
bit of a dark horse, them, aren't they? I mean, obviously they were an unknown quantity, and we stated that in our sort of like pre-season preview type of thing. And we saw, are they going to find it a little bit difficult? But
yeah,
they seem to have got the feet on that.
I mean, to be fair, they were only mid-table in the auction men's last season, but it just shows they've had a really good pre-season. The methods of the coach are starting to get through, and also, the fact that they've got lads like Sager, who played a long time at Keighley, and Ben Stead, who's also been around the professional ranks. I think that just adds a little bit of class, doesn't it, to them.
And we've seen that with other teams where you've got somebody with that either quality or somebody who's been at the club a long time, who knows how to, sort of master things games-wise.
Fair play to Normanton as well in Division 2. I mean, that 32-22 comeback win is very worthy of a mention, isn't it, at Hull Dockers. Dewsbury Celtic going about things very quietly as well, but putting some good results on the board too. And then, of course, you've got that close run thing, Ellenborough Rangers and Barrow Island, which certainly caught my eye. And then, as you mentioned it in Division 1, the strength of these Wigan clubs at the moment, with the way that they've started to get the season, Ince Bridge, Wigan St Jude's, Wigan St Pat's, all up near the top of the league, and all at the moment looking over each other's shoulders and checking the fixture list for when they play against each other. Yeah. That could have some bearings on the season, couldn't it?
What that's going to do, Parky, I think, come the end of the season, is if things go on, those 3 are going to be in the running, and then you can't discount Shawcross Sharks because we know how good they're. And there's a few others in there, who could possibly take points off them if they're not on the game. So that is really going to be, it's going to be good during the season, but come the playoffs, that is going to be absolutely humdinger.
You know how I always loved Division 1, Division 2, to be honest. We always talk about it because there's usually so many changes from season to season.
It's a different division every year, isn't it?
Half of the league changes, because you get three teams coming down, 3 teams going up. So you get such a shift. It's amazing. Right, we're going to move on to our next segment, which is our social media story of the week. I really love this one, Steve. So at times over the course of the season so far, these have been a little bit heavy, haven't they, some of these stories? Yeah. So, we covered the vandalism that happened to the pitches at Wigan St Jude's and the subsequent putting up of the fencing. We've heard about, some people that have been very, very ill and what clubs have been doing to raise money either for the causes or causes that are represented, by them. But I've got a real light-hearted story before Easter, which I'm really, really pleased of. So this comes from Milford, and it's a post that they put on the 13th of April. And they asked the question, what do you do with your old rugby balls? What do you do, Steve?
Oh, in fact, the only rugby ball I've got, which is an old one, which was from back in the days when we used to actually record on the radio.
Okay.
And we got a couple of balls that were sent in, which we give away as prizes, and there was one actually left. But it's an absolutely huge one.
Okay.
It's massive, and every so often I'll go in, it's in the garage, and every so often it's deflated, and I'll go in and I'll pump it up again. It's nice and it's great.
Right, okay.
And I always consider, what am I going to do with this? I put it away, and while I'm still thinking, I forget all about it, and it goes down again, and then, and it's still in there, I've got to say.
So I've got 2 rugby balls, or I've had 2 rugby balls. So I had one that was signed by the Leigh squad in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So it's worth lots of money, that one.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't the greatest period in Leigh, then Centurions history. But they were my guys. They were my players, you know, at that time, growing up. They were my heroes. So I appreciate that. So it's something that I'll always keep hold of, I think, that ball. But I'm sorry, Lowton High School, by the way. Really sorry. I did manage to procure a ball from Lowton High School at one point. It was the end of term. Oh. This is the excuse. So this was the end of term. You know, there's fences all around the school. And this ball had been kicked over the fence.
Fancy that.
And it had gone into like a load of bushes at the other side.
Yeah.
So I'd like spotted this, and I thought, I'm having this ball. It made a summer holiday. It was fantastic. I took it everywhere with us.
I don't know.
So thank you very much to Lowton High School for the ball, and I'm sorry, by the way.
Is that the ball that comes free with your action figure by any chance?
That's why there's 2 on the action figure. That right, but this post of the week. So Milford asked, what do you do with your old rugby balls? Certainly, this is what Milford do. So they donate theirs to the German Shepherd Rescue Elite. And then they've added at the bottom of this, to see the balls having a new lease of life and giving the rescue dogs some enjoyment. Oh, it's fantastic. And then they've gone #donate, #dogs, #rescue, #Milford, #BG family. And then there's a load of green and black hearts, which are at the bottom. But it's not just that. There is some classic I wish that I'd got my camera on these and taken these pictures, because I think they're fantastic. I want to do these as, like, you know, this craze that's going around the internet of having them as the animated figures.
Yeah.
I really want to come up with this. So these are fantastic. These. So we've got a big picture of a black German Shepherd with a Gilbert ball. Thinking what it's doing with the rugby union ball.
That's probably the right thing to do with the rugby union ball.
Then there's one of a kind of rusty coloured German Shepherd having the time of its life with this ball. And then a darker German Shepherd with a rhino ball.
A rhino ball, yeah.
I saw that story. I loved it, you know. And then there's a picture as well of a full boot, 2 great big boxes, and there is at least 12 balls that I can see in this. I just think that's a magnificent way to reuse your balls that aren't being used at a rugby club. That.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're going to a good cause, that's the thing. You don't want them, like I do, having them just stuck in your garage all the time.
Or like I did, pick them up from a bush. I will say now, though, that was over 30 years ago, Steve.
Yeah. Oh, it's a collector's item.
It's a collector's item, that, yeah.
Has it got a lace in? Do you put dubbing on it and that type of thing?
You know, I'm not even sure. That would have been if I'd taken care of it. That would have been.
There will be a lot of our listeners will not even have a clue what dubbing is.
What, the ex-dubbing? That sounds like something.
Smell of dubbing. Beautiful.
That sounds like something that you'd have with your, I don't know, your Easter dinner.
You wouldn't go eating dubbing for Easter dinner.
Okay. It's like that, is it?
It would go clean straight through you, let's put it that way.
Right, where are we going next, Steve?
We're looking at what players we're sort of up to this season, you know, because we've been to a couple of games, and that one that I was talking about at the beginning of the show, we had Ollie Lewis, who weighed in with a hat trick, and this man was, his pace, certainly over...
Rapid.
Yeah, over the short pace over a short sort of length.
I don't know. He scored one from about 50 metres.
Yeah, but I mean, from a standing start, he hit one. The one when I said, well, I thought it was Carl Lewis. His standing start, he just, poof, it was like a bullet out of a gun. And that was unbelievable. And I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of names like we've just been going on about that we give the results out every week. And some of them we noticed that we say, oh, yeah, he's scoring, sort of quite a lot in the sense because he's coming out regular. But what are things up to at the moment?
Well, this has got me, this section, wondering about how many teams are keeping this up to date at the moment. So this is where it could all fall badly wrong. And I'm so sorry if I don't mention you and you're actually top of the try scoring charts.
Don't you be sorry, Park.
We had this with Kieran Prescott last year, though. We did for Leigh East. So for some reason his stats hadn't been quite kept up to date, and they had to go back and amend them because he was in the runs with Thomas Minns for top try scorer of Division 3 last year.
Yeah, and that's a big thing.
It's a big thing, for him, and knowing how competitive Kieran is anyway, So, but from these early sort of stages in the Premier Division, there's a couple of players that are really standing out as out and out try scorers. So I'm going to go Harrison Dodd. He's got 7 tries so far for Waterhead. Magnificent young player.
Yep.
A guy that played for England under 16s a few years ago. Morgan Jones, he's another lad that we've seen playing for Lock Lane, so he's now on 7 tries for the season as well. And again, we talked about his story, didn't we? The fact that he was originally a half-back, went playing at Fryston, has come back to Lock Lane, and found himself out on the wing, looking like he's always played that position and scoring. His scoring prowess is there for all to see at the moment. From a point scoring point of view, we always mention, and it's something that I'm conscious that we always mention West Bowling because they can score points. They score loads, don't they?
Yeah.
They also boast the top goal kicker in the Premier Division at the moment. So Harry Williams has scored 3 tries and kicked 23 goals.
Really?
Keegan Brennan is just a tad behind according to these stats at the moment. 4 tries and 14 goals. Sean Lester, I think he scored more than this. I don't think his tries and goals from the weekend have been added on at the moment because that says 2 tries, 11 goals. But yeah, he scored 2 tries at the weekend. I know he scored at least 2 other tries this season. So I think he's more on 4 tries and it's about 15 goals actually. But that's from a Premier Division point of view. In Division 1, you'll like this because they're all players that we've commentated on who are at the top end of the league. So Callum Hughes.
Yeah.
Free scoring winger, big fella for Ince Rose Bridge, 11 tries this season. For Wigan St Jude's, Connor Parkinson, 7 tries.
Oh, Connor.
And Joey Brady, 5 tries. So he's been, thereabouts.
Yeah.
Wigan St Pat's are also represented. Guess who?
Wigan St Pat's.
Dummy half raid. Captain. Danny Riding.
I was just going to say, it's not Danny, is it?
Danny Riding. Yeah, rolling the clock back, getting over the try line, 5 tries for him. And then from a goal-kicking point of view, your mate, Mr Cassidy, 17 goals and a drop goal so far this year. Brad Smith for Wigan St Pat's, not far behind as well, the goal-kicking hooker or halfback. He scored 4 tries and 16 goals. But Division 2, this is going to blow your mind, this, Steve. Okay, so we've got East Leeds, all the way down the try scorers.
That doesn't surprise me.
So for East Leeds, there's 11 tries for AJ Wilson, 8 tries for Kieran Brining, 6 tries for Jake Normington, 6 tries for Shane Plunkett, 5 tries for Alfie Crawford, but also fair mention here as well to a couple of Pilks lads.
Yeah.
So Aidan Jones has scored 5 tries and George Hannon has also added 5 tries for Pilks as well. And my good friend Miller Dalton from Hensingham.
Oh, Miller.
Big Miller, 5 tries and 2 goals. But if you want top of the points charts, I feel like I should be having that. You're talking
down 2 from last week.
Luke Littlewood. 104 points he scored.
Wow.
4 tries, 44 goals so far. The nearest player that gets anywhere near him is again another old friend of mine, Sam Jones, over at Barrow Island. 3 tries and 22 goals. that's the top end of the point scorers there, you know. And then I was trying to put that together as we were going through everything else, because this is where I'm doing it on the fly now, and I'm going Division 3 on top of the tries. So Alfie Wall, we mentioned him a couple of times. He scored 5 tries already this season, kicked 1 goal as well. Grant Hill from Bentley has scored 5 tries. There's 4 tries each for Tyler Fisher of Mighton Warriors, Josh Blinkhorn of Millham, Tom Askew of Millham. We saw him score a couple of tries against Leigh East, didn't we, when we covered that game a few weeks ago. Adam Gaunt, we're mentioning nearly every week for Keighley Albion. Josh Tenniswood is now up to 4 tries this season, and I'm going to add him to the list of names that we're going to keep an eye on.
Are we starting a fantasy team of players with exciting names?
With great names.
Yeah.
So we've got Josh Tenniswood, we've got Kieran Chipchase, and who was the other one that I mentioned? I said, Hamish McClintock.
That's right.
You know, we're gonna. This is going to be amazing as we go on and we clock these players. So those are the guys that are top of the try charts in Division 3 at the moment. Remember that they've played a combination of between 3 and 5 games, have the clubs.
Depending on which division you're in, isn't it, to a certain degree?
Well, it does, but I was thinking more in this Division 3, so Connor Whitehead tops the goal-kicking charts at the moment, 2 tries, 18 goals and a drop goal. Kieran Lewis from Bentley, 1 try, 9 goals. Callum Hudson has also chipped in with 8 goals so far for Keighley Albion. Jonty Peters, 1 try and 6 goals for Millham. Tyler Fisher, we mentioned him scoring 4 tries. He's also kicked 5 goals as well, so he's perhaps one to watch at that level. I just like how we can mention some of these guys. And obviously,
we should. We've said this before.
We have.
And you know, guys, if you're not keeping your stats up to date on the sort of the national database.
Leigh Miners, Siddal, probably a couple more actually.
Please do, because these guys, they put their neck on the line playing for your club. So if they're going to score tries and kick goals and get those points for you, let's give them some recognition. Get them under.
I also wanted, and I know we did this last week to a certain extent, so not a lot has changed within the league and the league tables. But I just thought, again, we've reached this natural break, so normally we'd be talking about fixtures that we've got coming up next week, and surprise, surprise, it's Easter, there's no fixtures. There's no fixtures in the National Conference League. Let me put that right, because we have got the Standard Cup final in Oldham.
That's right.
So that game being played over at Boundary Park, and it's Waterhead up against Oldham St Anne's. 12:30 kick-off and start for that one if you are going. Always a good afternoon out is the Oldham Standard Cup. And then we've got some games in the Barla National Cup as well.
It's round 2 of the Barla National Cup, we've got quite a few there. So
Before we dip into those then, Steve, because I know that you're always keen to give the Barla National Cup its mention as, I suppose, a mark of where it has stood over the test of time in the community game. So despite West Hull losing, they are still top of the Premier Division. But it's point difference which separates them and West Bowling. So it's a good time to be called West.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It is in
Wild West.
In rugby league terms, of course. West Bowling will certainly be hoping that they can maybe tighten up their defence a little bit, because although they've only lost 1 game, they've only got a point difference of 10.
Yeah.
That's an amazing stat, that. So they scored 166 points. So it's between them and Rochdale Mayfield for scoring the most points so far in the league.
So they've let 156 in.
They've let 156 in, and that's on par with like the second worst defence in the league. But yet they've got the joint top attack.
Yeah, and all you need is a slight off day there, don't you?
You know what? This means we've got to see West Bowling at some point.
Yeah,
so we could get anything, couldn't we? From them this season. But so far the results have been good. Siddal now sit in 3rd place, Lock Lane in 4th, Thatto Heath in 5th. Waterhead dropping down to 6th, but they'll be happy with how they've taken to Premier Division life. The bottom 3, I didn't think I'd be saying this, but Hunslet, 3rd bottom, Leigh Miners Rangers 2nd bottom, Dewsbury Moor Maroons still the only side that is winless after 6 rounds of the competition. Any of those surprise you at all, Steve?
The Hunslet one is going to be the one that surprises you in the sense of I know it's early doors, but
I don't think they were thinking as well that they'd lose as many players as they have done, and it would cause the ripple effect that it has done.
What will be an interesting match, which would I would be, having seen the two sides, would be Leigh Miners against Hunslet. That would be really interesting.
I think that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. You've been looking ahead.
No, but it would just look, because obviously we've seen both sides. We've seen a side that were, sort of by their own admission, woeful in the first half, but in the second half, really got into the game. And we've seen Hunslet, who, could have been onto a good hiding to a certain extent from Loch Lane had they been really on the game, but they stuck it together and they stayed in there. But if you look over the course of the fixtures that they've had, I mean, it's an Hunslet team that's losing, and it's be interesting to see how they differ against the likes of Waterhead Warriors, another team who, as much as they lost against Loch Lane, still putting some good performances in there.
And I believe that loss for Waterhead was the first time they've been beaten at home in 4 seasons.
Really?
So that says what a run they've been on, doesn't
Crouchy
it?
will be pleased with that then, won't he?
He sent me the stat. He sent me the stat.
Now he's been to Oldham.
Yeah. In Division 1, you're in a good mood if you're coming from Wigan. Ince Bridge top, 5 wins on the bounce now for them. Wigan St Jude's 4 wins from their 5 fixtures. Wigan St Pat's in 4th position with 3 wins and a loss from their 4 games. Heworth are the side that is breaking up the Wigan trio. Yeah, so they've won 4.
They've come under the radar a little bit, haven't they? Yeah.
They have come under the radar a little bit. They've got a really solid defence as well, to be fair, and are doing some good things. They've got a positive point difference of 46 and 8 league points on the board. Your bottom 3, well, Crossfields are still winless. Alton Raiders are still winless. Woolston Rovers have now got that win under the belt. And Kells are only just above them. However, I want to say with Kells, they've got a plus point difference despite losing 4 of their games. So their win, they must have battered whoever it was that they played. They've scored, Kells this is, 108 points, conceding 99. So that's quite a feat if you're 4th bottom of the league, that with only 1 win under your belt.
It's gotta say, it's daunting down there for the Warrington clubs. I mean, Woolston, as I was saying earlier on, they'll be more than delighted to get that particular win under the belt, and hopefully can try and bounce on from there. What it does do, it sets up the return fixture for being a real humdinger, I can tell you that, when Woolston welcome Crossfields down the road here to, I think it's Monk's Sports, because they're all, as I say, when there's virtually nothing other than bragging rights on the cards, the good games, but you start putting, sort of valuable points, which I'm sure they're still, going to be a valuable too when they play again. It's got to be a good one.
6 games into the season for most of these sides in Division 2. East Leeds are in a league of their own. I think we can safely say that, when... Yeah,
I think it's Championship 1, isn't it?
And I think it's top end League 1 as well, from how they're playing and the points that they're putting on. 328 points in 6 games and only 50 conceded. If you're after an even better defensive stat, though, Dewsbury Celtic. They've only conceded 32 points in 5 games.
Really? That is good.
Magnificent.
That is very good.
That is absolutely brilliant, to be honest. And there's a lot of good things happening with Celtic. So I'm pleased. They've also got a real... I don't know whether you've seen it. I think it's certainly been mentioned on social media. So it's not our social media story of the week, which is still overtaken by my love of dogs.
Love of dogs.
But it's worthwhile mentioning that, Dewsbury Celtic, this season, they are bringing out like a kit that they're wearing at various points, and polo shirts as well, which signifies 50 years since they played in the Challenge Cup against, I think it would have been either Hull KR or Castleford. Yeah. It was against, like a really top team at the time. And it's a smart, you as a Saints fan, you'd absolutely love it, because it's white with a green V.
Oh, very nice.
It's so smart. It's a lovely, lovely bit of kit, that. So not only doing well in the Fashion Stakes, but also doing well in the league, currently sitting 4th, Dewsbury Celtic. There is only one team that is winless, and I think you clocked it. You said Skirler. So in the games overall, and we're looking like 2 Hull sides are battling relegation here.
Yeah.
So they could find themselves in Division 3 next season, which, when you consider there's Beverley there,
Yeah.
And there's Myton, could become a little Hull league
I
of
was
its
just going
own.
to say,
That one,
at least travelling's going to be a lot cheaper than
not for anybody else that's
No,
in that
sorry,
division.
yeah.
But I do sort of say. I mean, obviously there's a long way to go.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed, both of those sides can get themselves away
and
from
to be
the
fair,
issue. Though.
To be fair, Dave, I mean, in the past we've mentioned certainly these lower divisions. You only have to string a couple of wins together, and it can jump you right up, can't it?
Well, you do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to be honest, Pilts Rex currently find themselves in 6th spot on 6 points at the moment. So that's only 3 wins out of the 6 games. But yet around them are Barrow Island, Driglington, Hensingham, Thornhill.
So it's all tight, isn't it?
A couple of wins
Yeah.
either way
Yeah.
for those sides. And well, we had that strange situation, didn't we, at the end of last season, where the results on the last day ensured that Saddleworth were relegated.
Yeah, and it was points difference,
And
if
it
I
was
remember
point
right.
difference,
Yeah.
but yet quite easily, if
Yeah.
results had gone a slightly different way,
Yeah.
they would have finished in the playoffs. Unbelievable.
Because the thing is, that when it's that tight round there, if you win a game and anybody close to you loses you, your game is like a 4-pointer then.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, so it's so intriguing.
So it is. They fascinate me.
Yeah.
These sort of divisions 1 and 2, and then you've mentioned Division 3, and again fair play to Saddleworth Rangers because they're currently top of the pile, 4 wins out of 4, 52 points conceded in those 4 games. So they're defending really well. They've scored 125 points as well, which is the most of anybody in the division. Keighley Albion making a real great fist of things at the moment. Bentley with 3 wins out of 4, Leigh East with 3 wins out of 4, and then just beneath them, again, very competitive. You've got Dissington, you've got Myton Warriors, you've got Featherstone Lions, and then you've got Millham, who again string a couple of wins together. They'll move up, and there's only 2 sides that are have yet to taste victory so far this season in 4 and 3 games respectively. Beverley and Milford. They won't be sounding any alarm bells just quite yet. I think it's still a little bit early on in the season for that, even though it is a small division, so they'll only play 18 games in that division, whereas the others they'll play 22 league games. So, but there's a lot of rugby to go. I've really loved the fact that we've covered the games in which we have done so far. We've seen some great rugby, we've seen some great players, and I just think that it's a good season so far, isn't it, Steve?
It is. It's and in the past we've sort of said that the more entertaining divisions have been the lower divisions, sort of 1, 2 and 3 because of that closeness. And let's be honest, with Hunslet dominating things in the Prem for so long, it's been a little bit sort of, but this year
the Prem as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you look and you've got York Acorn in 9th on 6 points, Thatto Heath in 5th with 6 points. So that's exactly like what we were talking about. Couple of wins either way, couple of losses, and you find yourself down towards the bottom end of the league, and I think that we're in a really, really good sort of like standard.
Very much.
Playing some great stuff. Mentioned about the National Cup.
Yeah, the Barler Open Age National Cup.
Well, run these by us, or jot these down if there's any fixtures that you can find.
This is where I can't understand this.
Don't tell me you can't find any fixtures.
No, I've got all the fixtures here, but I can't, the words logical thinking and Barler Open Age National Cup have never really gone in the same sentence before.
Okay.
Right?
What's happening?
What about this year, right? We know at the beginning, at the top of the show, we said this is our Easter special, isn't it? As it were.
Yeah, we did.
We all know what happens.
Extravaganza.
Extravaganza, yeah. And we all know what happens on Good Friday. It's the old, certain derby matches, certainly the Saints Wigan one. And what has happened here? Well, I'll give you a couple of the games.
Don't tell me there's a couple of people going head-to-head with it.
We've got Thatchworth versus Pilks Rex.
Oh, don't do that to me.
And we've got West Orton versus Oral St James. Now,
so you've got 2 St Helens teams and 2 Wigan teams.
Yeah, but I said,
right,
common sense.
Okay, common sense.
They're both playing tomorrow night.
Oh.
So if you're doing nothing tomorrow night and you're either in the St Helens area or the Wigan area and you want to get your rugby fix, get down to either of those games.
Which one are you going to? Shall I go to the other one?
But those 2 games will be really interesting. Because you've got Thatchworth Crusaders and Pilks Rex who are both in the NCL. Then you've got Oral St James and West Orton Lions who are both in the North West Men's League. I mean, don't get me wrong, Oral St James are a very, very good side. West Orton, though, not having a bad season.
Dig.
Yeah. So that's on Thursday. Then we go on to the 19th, which is this Saturday, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, then we've got Hindley Stags up against Kippax Welfare. And then Leigh East, well, they welcome Wasbrow Hornets down the road from where we are sitting currently at the moment. And they'll be interesting to see what team Wasbrow send down. And then we've got Brighouse Rangers, they're up against West Hull. So that's the round 2 of the Barla Men's League. Or Barla Open Age National Cup, sorry.
Yeah, so some interesting ties there, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean,
don't know whether to make a trip out to St Helens or go over to West Orton.
Do you know what? I would normally say, Thatchworth and Pilks, because we know both clubs very, very well. But West Orton Lions, I think, because it's a Wigan derby, I'm sure they'll have a good...
No, don't go saying West Orton is Wigan.
Well, it's
Bolton.
Well, it's thereabouts, isn't it? You know,
it is just up the road from Hindley.
It's like saying Aydock is Wigan, isn't it? You know what I mean? They have just upset half of Aydock.
Oh, Steve, we were doing so well.
And we
so well.
No, but I think the West Orton Lions or St James. Either of those. Hindley Stags against Kippax Welfare as well would be interesting because that's 2 teams we've never. Other than that, you could just walk down from your house parking and go to Leigh East and Wasbrow Hornets. In fact, you won't waste any petrol, would you really?
No need. But again, it's going on at the same time as Leigh and Warrington.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So, and Leigh at home as well.
Yeah.
Kick-off's at 2 o'clock.
I know, and the kick-off for the Leigh match is 1:30. So it's like, you've got no chance of getting any parking.
Well, they've gone, so you're all right. You only just walk down the road, really, don't you?
Could get my steps in, couldn't I?
Yeah, take a bag and you can do a big shop at Morrison's on your way home.
Other supermarkets are available. Plenty of other supermarkets are available lately, to be honest, Steve. We don't want to give them free advertising. Not unless Morrison's. Yeah. Would you care to sponsor us for our try of the season?
Yeah.
We've got some commentary that we could do for it.
Yeah, we can do that at Morrison's. I'll tell you what, you could sponsor your apple pies. God, their apple pies are gorgeous. They are delicious.
Anyway. Whilst Steve now goes and has a rummage in his cupboards for those apple pies, we'd like to thank all of our listeners so far. Do remember that you can join us on our social media pages. So we're over there on Twitter. We have got a Facebook page as well. So we're on 13 Pro Am RL page. I think we've also got a community page as well, haven't we, Steve? And, of course, we're right across Mixler. This is obviously where we record and put our things out, first of all. But you can also get our podcasts on Amazon. You can also get them on...
iTunes, Apple.
Yeah, you've got the piece of paper in front of you.
It's one from when we did things before. So as we said, we've got Spotify, iTunes, we've got Amazon. We're on there as well. All the big platforms we're on, and we're on some of the smaller ones as well. Google Podcasts, we're on there too. Podcast Addicts, Podchaser, and others. So there's plenty of ways to get all of us. What we do want you to do, obviously, is make sure you share it with your friends. Just whichever platform you listen to us on, obviously like us so you get notification that when we do a show you get notified straight away, but share it with your friends and just let them know that we're talking about all things rugby league. Certainly the NCL were given a big coverage this year, but got to say the more people we get listening, the better for the whole rugby community as a whole.
Definitely, I'll echo that. So I'm off to go and find some Cadbury's cream eggs. Steve's off to raid and see if he can find his apple pie.
Apple pies, yeah.
I'll probably need a couple of metformin afterwards, but I will see you on the other side. We'll catch you again next week when we'll be back previewing all of the after Easter action and hopefully going through some excellent...
I don't know. That's the worst York I've ever heard.
Oh, we'll be all
Every
white.
tackle, every try, every scrum. Green Cooling is proud to be part of the Community Rugby League family.